Hey everybody, it's Rob at 22 Squared. I want to take a few minutes and talk about VDP best practices and just some thought starters. I'll touch quickly on an SRP best practice, but mainly VDP best practices and just give you some thought starters there. So I'll start on SRP page. The main thing I wanted to communicate on your SRP and both your SRP and your VDP is making sure that we're including information around a why-buy message. So you can see here this store, for instance, this is an SRP page. Again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but they're highlighting their why-buy message pretty prominently up here on the banner. They also have, up here in the header that kind of follows you as you go down, information about President's Awards. And then with each listing, they've also got more information about their why-buy message. So really want to make sure that you guys from an SRP and a VDP page, because as we talk about a lot when we're talking to dealers, is SRPs and VDPs are where conversions happen. We have to be continuously reminding consumers why they should be doing business with you. So throughout that customer funnel, that customer journey, whatever you want to call it, it's important to make sure that you're reminding them what makes you guys unique as they go down that funnel. So let's just click on this one and go mainly into VDP. This store in particular, click on this. This store in particular does a good job on the SRP talking about their difference. I think they could probably do a little better job on a VDP page, re-emphasizing that same why-buy message up in the header section. So like in this instance, I think there's real estate here that's really valuable that we could be continuing that. In this instance, the Advantage plan, and sort of bullet pointing out what all that includes. Again, the header includes the President's Award information here. You've got to click here to, this is all good. Like in this header, you've got a lot of information: President's Award, Advantage plan, fair and upfront, encouraging you to click a video. So overall, I think this example does a good job of carrying that why-buy through. Okay, moving on from that. A couple of things on this VDP, for instance. We talk a little bit about social icons here. Not crazy about it having these social icons as high as they are. I think if they want to be included on a VDP, that's fine. My only worry is, everything we try to do as far as the customer journey on a site is to drive them to a VDP, because again, that's where conversion happens more times than not. So we don't want to be having them click off of a VDP in particular. I mean, if it was a homepage or something like that, I get it. But on particular on a VDP, I don't know that I would include these social icons as high as they are. Maybe move those down. Merchandising wise, I'm just using this store as an example. They do a pretty consistent job with the way the photos are taken. If at all possible, eliminating some of this background noise with these trees just to make the car really stand out. Not a lot of stores have things like photo booths and things that can really kind of eliminate that background noise. But as much as you can do to eliminate that, the better. The way the car is angled is perfect. We want to be angling the cars kind of towards the right to draw that eye over into these buttons where we want the conversion to happen. Best practice says that, the more pictures, the better. The more detailed, the better. I would say a minimum of about 20 photos, interior, exterior. I'm not going to click on all these, but you can see where they're. This example, they have a good amount of photos. So just making sure that we are showcasing the vehicle and providing evidence of the value of the vehicle and the merchandising of the vehicle. As far as this here, which is really where all the magic happens, I'm going to click off of this. Some good things going on here. So obviously we have a strike through on the MSRP. We get a lot of questions about, do we show a discounted price? Do we not show a discounted price? There is no really right or wrong answer. I would encourage any dealership to play around and see what works best for them. It's, 50-ish%. we'll just do a strike through on an MSRP, and then the other 50% will show a discount. There's really no right or wrong answer for what works best for everybody. What I would tell you is, again, as far as this button here, good example here where the first button we see is locking in the price. There's all kinds of different ways you can create icons or buttons, whatever you want it to be, for that e-price button. And there's all kinds of verbiage too you can experiment with. Best practice, or what we tend to encourage, is having some sort of sense of urgency, giving the consumer the indication that the price is not necessarily going to, there's some sense of urgency that they need to, that best price may go away. So the wording here, lock in today's best price, we really like, but there's all kinds of different variations on what that can look like. We would just encourage you to get away from things like get e-price or something that's pretty standard, making sure that there's that urgency with that button. That is the holy grail right there, is this button, and making sure that we can hopefully get a lead from this page. Love here too, we always encourage having a trade and a pre-approval page button, that links to your trade page and your finance page. Again, these are actions that consumers take that convert. So as much as we can get them to either submit a lead that way through trade or through pre-approval, the better. If obviously, as best practice says, if you fill out a trade page, you submit a pre-approval, that's a highly qualified lead because they're taking the time to go through the trouble of submitting all this information. So it's a highly qualified lead. So we want to do all we can to provide buttons that get them there as quickly as possible. And again, I'm not going to click on there, but same thing goes for this trade and the pre-approval page. Let's try and have some sort of why buy message included on those pages as well, like they are here. Great use of, again, down here, the Advantage plan. The why buy is included down here. I'm not going to click it, but it goes to a page that talks about it. And then the Safety Sense and Toyota Care, always encourage you to have it here. So it's a good looking VDP page here. It's clean, not a lot of white space, good use of, I think if maybe there's anything from a merchandising perspective, cleaning this up a little bit as far as the background, but good use of photos, and the way the buttons and everything is laid out is sort of encouraged as a best practice. Again, 20 photos or so are encouraged, and then just making sure that from a pricing perspective, the big thing I would take away from here is experiment a little bit with showing the price versus not. I'm sorry, showing the discount versus not showing the discount, and potentially some of the wording and the way that this button here, this e-price button, so to speak. We don't really like to call it an e-price button, but that's the industry has sort of called it that for years. So, but this button here, experimenting and see what works best for you. As far as the rest of the page goes, we've got some similar vehicles here, which is fine. Just making sure that we have accurate descriptions. We have a lot of information about the vehicle as much as we can. We know consumers go online, they do a lot of shopping, spend a lot of time on a VDP page, especially if they've narrowed it down to a particular vehicle to learn more about it. So we don't want to leave them without information that they're seeking, because oftentimes if they're not getting the information they need, they're frustrated and they're having to reach out to the store and find out the information they preferably would have it here on the page. So again, those are sort of some of the high level best practices on a VDP page. Touched on SRP a little bit, and touched on some of the other pages, whether it be the trade or the finance page. So we are always here to help. Our team at 22 Squared oftentimes do website reviews. So when we come and meet with you guys, we'll go through a lot of the stuff, but we just want to put together a video to touch on some of these best practices. If you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to your 22 Squared rep. We are glad to help, and that's what we're here for. Thank you.